No doubt about it, it was an overwhelming weekend as we bid into the World Cup draw. Then a day later, had the dates and the times and the paths of all the stadiums and kickoff times announced. And the dust, I think, has settled. So I'm a big dust settling guy. And we reacted very quickly right after the draw. But after a weekend to absorb it, a few cognacs and cigars, I'm just kidding. Uh, it was time for me to take a closer look at Group D featuring the United States. Take a look at what to expect and a little bit at the path as the United States prepare to host the second World Cup. And a good draw, no doubt about it. I know some people are calling it a dream draw and the best. I proceed lightly. I saw an interesting reaction from folks in Australia, like almost them licking their chops. And I'm not saying Australia is going to beat the United States, but you don't want to make the bulletin board material too early. If you're saying it's a dream draw, the word dream is very strong. So it's a very good draw. But I'll give you, we'll break it all down here on the Soccer OG. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate you guys joining me. So much content coming out. We're staying busy because we love it. So stick along for the ride as we continue to preview the groups, preview the World Cup, and moving forward. This is the path of the World Cup is whatever anyone tells you. And you have to face the heavy hitters, and at some point you might. Maybe you can avoid them. The thing is, avoid them as long as possible so that they can play each other and knock each other out. You want to find a way to navigate, and a good draw gets you a good way. So the U.S. got a good draw, a group that they should win. It depends on that UEFA playoff World Cup qualifying round, where we'll find out the identity of the final team. Actually, let's start there, because let's try and go in chronological order. We'll get into what the U.S. has to do. So, the final group, and the United States do open with Paraguay June the 12th in Los Angeles, June the 19th against Australia in Seattle, and June the 25th against a UEFA team. And if they win that, there's a chance it'll stay on the West Coast, maybe a game in the Bay Area, maybe a game down there in Los Angeles again. So, eventually, they'll have to move eastward if they continue in the tournament. But they can, put down the tents there on the West Coast and move forward from there. So let's talk about this group. So it's going to be either Kosovo, Romania, Slovakia, or Turkey. Turkey is the highest ranked of the four teams by FIFA. The FIFA rankings are actually a pretty good utensil. I know we laugh at it, but they're when you look at the results and where teams are, I think they're rating these teams a little bit better than we have in the past. So, give or take 5 spots for every team. Turkey's 25th, Slovakia's 45th, Romania's 47th, Kosovo is 80th. The United States are in the top 15, 16. So, they are FIFA ranking-wise miles ahead of it. So, I think if any of the 3 teams not named Turkey advance, the USA will win the group. If Turkey wins there, which I expect them to, but you never know. This is a tournament that's going to be taking place in March. And by the way, every time I look at the World Cup group, I look at some of those World Cup groups that have the 4 teams already determined, and it looks so beautiful, clean. And then USA will always have to say Paraguay, Australia, and Kosovo, Slovakia. Don't get Wayne Gretzky to say it. Turkey and Romania. So it's annoying. But I get it. It's a 48 team. You gotta do the due diligence on making these qualifications take place. Turkey will play Romania, and these are games in Central Europe. There's no real home field advantage. Slovakia will take on Kosovo. You would expect Turkey and Slovakia to advance. Kosovo's really interesting. I mean, they shouldn't be here, but they got some good wins. They have more European-based teams and top leagues, and I think Romania does. And certainly Australia does. But this is, I wouldn't overlook them. But I would actually, I would prefer to face Romania than Kosovo, if that makes any sense. There's something about that spirit. But either way, Turkey played the U.S. back in June, beat the U.S. Turkey also has 2 of the 10 best young players in the world in Arda Güler and Kenan Yildiz. Yildiz plays at Juventus. Güler starts now at Real Madrid a fair bit. I mean, these are elite players. Turkey hasn't been in the World Cup since 2002, but they've been in the Euros, and they were pretty good in the last Euros, making the quarterfinals. It probably should have gone a little further. But this is a very strong team, and it's about 80 million people in Turkey. They're a sleeping giant that not only can make World Cups, but go very far. Maybe one day win it. You see that. The fact that they are in Europe and pushing their soccer program, you look at their domestic league, it is insane, the star power. There's money in Turkey, and they're investing a lot in the sport of football. But again, we don't know. Turkey is favored to win the playoff, but not by a whole lot. And all those games, it'll feel like a mini World Cup. Actually, I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm predicting it's going to be Wales, Poland, Turkey, and Denmark. And the USA want a good team in their group because, let's say, for argument's sake, it is Turkey. I think most people would say that Turkey would be the favorites, but the USA would be a clear second favorite. You can still make it through if you are in third. So, when you look back at the group with that identity in place, the USA's best chance to win the group, or the place where it could have been in peril, is if in that pot 2 there were 3 or 4 countries like a Morocco that they could have drawn that would have been clear favorites in the group. They avoided all of them. So that's why this group is good. And you want to avoid the heavy hitters. Now, in the group stages, if you drew a big team, that's one big team you don't have to face in the knockouts. So, but I don't know how, we just don't know. You do your best, and I'll tell you how winning the group, there is incentive to have a deeper run. So let's get into the teams that we do know, starting with Paraguay, which will be the first game. They're ranked 39th, haven't been in the World Cup since 2010 when they made the quarterfinals and were this close to making a semi under Tata Martino. And they lost to Spain 1-0, and Spain went on to win that World Cup, as you will recall. Paraguay, like one of those countries sandwiched in between Argentina and Brazil and Uruguay, looking for an identity. They have a good team, some players that are known here in the U.S. Miguel Almiron, who plays in MLS, Diego Gomez, who's now at Brighton, was at Inter Miami. But there is a familiarity there with the Paraguayan national team, which is really good. These two teams played back in November. The USA won pretty comfortably 2-1 in that game. And, I want to give U.S. Soccer a lot of credit for the scheduling to have drawn teams that you played. That makes the scheduling looks good. And it's great. Now they have tape on this team. They know they can beat them. And that's the case with Paraguay, and that's the case with Australia, who they played in October and beat 2-1. But the more I think about that, you're also giving those countries tape on you. And now we've given them a reason to kind of get a little, feel like, all right, we didn't have our best game there. We feel like we can beat this team. Let's put a game plan together. Whatever that is, that's just coach speak and what have you. But the old adage, beating a team twice, it's kind of hard. The USA is going to have to do that with Australia and Paraguay, but this is the game. That was a friendly, and these are two very different. This is the World Cup, baby. So Paraguay, I think, is, as I said this, in this group stages where 3 teams can potentially advance, you need a game that you absolutely, positively need to win. You can't go and get point here, point there. You got to win a game. This is the USA's best bet if Turkey do win that group. Different story if one of those other European teams make it through. But Paraguay is that. Start the competition as they did 4 years ago in that Welsh game. Should have won it. Started out with 3 points. And then, take a deep breath. Take a deep breath as you move forward, knowing that your passage is pretty much confirmed. Australia, June the 19th. Now, this Australian team, I remember the 2002 team with Tim Cahill and Harry Kewell and Lucas Neal. Man, they were insane, and they were a beautiful team to watch. This is not that. This is an Australian team, very few players in the major top European leagues. In fact, there's a lot of Australian players in MLS that will be playing on this. A lot of MLS players in this group, quite frankly. And Australia has that identity the U.S. have. Tough to crack, tough to break, will run all day. Those things which are not really technically, athletically pretty good, but the technical aspects may be lacking, which is not a shot on them, but this is how they do it. But they are an excellent collective. I speak to a lot of Australian media members, and they are very optimistic about this Australia team. And I'm like, why? Who do I need to look out for? He goes, it doesn't matter who, it is the team. And remember, Australia won 2 games, including beating Denmark in the last World Cup. No one expected that. They've made 6 World Cups. They got to the round of 16 last time, and they pushed Argentina. The Australian media feels better about this team. And Australian sport is, they have a lot of sports. They have rugby league, they have rugby union, they have Australian rules football, they have cricket, they have soccer, which is trying to be the biggest sport in that country, and it's making that headway, certainly. Not to be underestimated by any means. This is going to be tough. And something I would like, based on that matchup in October, remember that Christian Pulisic took that hit, and the U.S. were like, whoa. Now they know that they're going to be physical, and they have to throw it back at Australia. Can't let them get away with that, going after their leader. So hopefully the American players remember that, and they take care of business if there's any funny business, if you know what I mean. Australia's ranked 26th. Again, they get to World Cups, well-tested in Asia. If USA can beat Paraguay and beat Australia, we're on to something. But maybe that's a place where they get a point. I just think it's dangerous to think you're going to get those 3 points against Australia. Based on everything I've heard from the Australian media, I know a lot of them. They've never said this to me before. They feel very optimistic about what this team is capable of doing. Prior to losing to the United States, remember they had that 12-match unbeaten streak. I know they weren't playing Italy and Germany and all that, but whatever. It's a 12-match unbeaten streak. And then it will be that final game on June the 25th, and we'll see where it lies. Now, winning the group or finishing second. Let's assume, hopefully, that the United States doesn't finish third, but you're going to get a heavy hitter in the round of 32. You want to avoid the heavy hitters as long as possible. If the USA wins Group D, they will face a third-place team, the best third-place team from a variety of groups, and the teams that I picked finishing third in the groups were Qatar, Ivory Coast, Poland, if they come to the qualifiers, Norway, and Algeria. Good matchup across the board. I like that. Good matchup. Except for maybe Norway. But remember, Norway hasn't been in this World Cup, so I don't think the U.S. should fear Norway. They could lose to Norway, but I still think they would be the favorite. If the USA finish second in Group D, they will face the second-place team in Group G, which would be, I think, Belgium or Egypt. I think those are the two teams. And this is not a great Belgium team. It's a good Belgium team, but not the team we saw in past World Cups. They are starting to create an identity. This is not the Belgium team that we faced back in 2010 with all those monsters. That's a good matchup for the round of 32. Again, it's going to be tough. Let's say it's Egypt. Now, this is why the USA needs to go out and win the group. If they finish second, and let's say they beat Egypt, the round of 16 will likely be Argentina. Not good. Not good. We want to get past the round of 16, right? Argentina's going to get there. They're going to win their group, and they're going to win their game in the round of 32. You can almost put it into the bracket right now. If the USA win Group D, get by that third-place team, whoever it is, the round of 16 team would be the winner from Group G, Belgium or Egypt. Would you want to face Argentina or let's say Belgium? Bring on Belgium. Bring them on. That's how you navigate a tournament. You get the matchups. The best way to do it, win your group. And the U.S. can win that group regardless of what happens in the UEFA playoffs. This is a good opportunity. It's not about just getting out. It's about winning the group. And that has to be the focus. You're playing at home. You'll get the creature comforts. You'll get the big crowds. You'll certainly get the big crowds in all three of those games. It should be a very strong crowd in those facilities. And even though the United States struggled in SoFi Stadium in the Nations League, this is a different story altogether. So be optimistic, but keep it under your hat. Don't use words like dream. Don't use words like ideal. Don't say we're going to make it to the quarterfinals. Just pipe it down. Let's keep it quiet. And let's find a way to navigate. And let's avoid the big teams as possible. And we have a bit of a blueprint. And then you get to the round of 16, and then who knows what happens elsewhere. Soccer OG, we're all over this. So I appreciate you with us talking World Cup. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. We'll talk soon.